Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check.
Check mic 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check mic 1 2.
Yeah. Oh. Welcome to 98% Podcast, where we hear real stories from real people, and I am here with Alex Leonhart. So, Alex, tell us about yourself.
What's up, Ricky? Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Wow. Tell you about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would like to say that I am I'm a very kind individual, and I'm a very caring individual.
Okay.
And I enjoy, the outdoors, adventure. I enjoy, comedy movies. One thing a lot of people don't know, I like archery. I do like to shoot bows.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very devotion.
What kind? Like compound bows?
Yeah, like compound bows. So, I love my dog. I got a Weimaraner named Sally. She's awesome. Let's see what else. I love my girlfriend, Summer. Her dog Bon. Yeah.
Okay.
I do my best not to say what I do. I try to say who I am as a person.
I like that. Yeah. That's a good perspective.
I'm not my personal trainer is my job, right?
Uh-huh.
It's not who I am. Who I am. That's my actions and how I treat people. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, that's like a real thing. Is like when you ask someone tell me about yourself, the first thing they go to is like job.
Yeah.
Right? Which is funny. And it's like, you're not really your job. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of people, oh, well, I'm 50 years old. I'm a carpenter and I have 3 kids. That's usually how people do it. It's like, no, who are you as a person? Right?
Exactly. I think that's the first time we've started off with well, I'm a kind and caring person. So I like that. Okay, cool. Okay, so how do you know me?
How do I know you? Slick Rick. Gosh, what year was it? 2016? 2017?
Probably.
Yeah. So we used to work with each other at Nike.
Mm-hmm.
Work with each other, meaning you were my boss, right? Mm-hmm. Granted, for a little bit I was an athlete, and then we kind of worked each other as bosses together. But yeah. And you had a couple different positions because you were back of house to start, right? Is that how
I was actually at
footwear,
Kansas City.
Footwear first. Footwear to start. Yeah. And then I think you moved to back of house, right?
I did.
Yeah. So yeah, we worked with each other at Nike, and it was a good time. It was a good time.
One thing I always remember about you, which makes me laugh, is you used to tease me about my lunchbox.
I did?
Because it was a Walmart bag. It was a Walmart bag full of food. I'd bring it every day. And I remember you and I think it might have been Kimmy or somebody was just like, oh, nice lunchbox. I'm like, well, thank you. It's free. It's cheap.
So, yeah. Oh man,
that's pretty good.
I remember you and Jason would just have the wildest stories about you guys from Branson, and you guys would tell them in the break room, and yeah.
What was some of those? Yeah, I don't know, dude. It felt like the Wild West in Branson, man. When we worked together, we did some of the silliest things. On one of the episodes, I think we talked about sandwich punching. That was something that we all did together.
I heard about that.
Yeah. It was silly. And it was, dude, funnest game ever, though. I mean, maybe not, but it was when you're working and you're trying to find something fun to do, it was good. Everybody made their list. We knew exactly who was involved in this game. And yeah, you had to make sure your sandwich was sealed, or shielded, otherwise you got it punched. And it was a fun time. But yeah, we did that. What else did we do? Oh, we were always doing stuff. I'm trying to think of some of the Jason stories. And I think I even told some, on the one podcast with Joe, I think.
Yeah, I think that's how I heard the sandwich one. Yeah.
The sandwich one. I remember him being outside once behind the store fly fishing, practicing fly fishing.
Jason was?
In his full outfit. We went back there and I'm like, what are you doing? Just practicing. And he's just in the back.
He's the best on and everything. He's just...
Everything was so good. It was so good because it's okay. And, I'm not surprised. And then... what happened? There's just lots of random stuff. I don't remember all the stories, but yeah, we always had stories to tell, and yeah, we always did silly stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a good bit of fun at the Legend store too.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite stories?
I always had fun with the meetings. You remember the snowman one we did, where the athletes, we had teams and they dressed us up as snowmen, and then we had to They had to vote like who the best snowman was.
Why don't I remember that? I don't remember that.
I think I have a video of it. Should I pull it up?
Am I in the video?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
You want me to pull it up right
Yeah,
now?
let's pull it up. Yeah, I want to be reminded of this.
Yeah, because yeah, I remember that. It was also I don't know if I should say this, but do you remember that one athlete that we had that smelled like weed when he came in for that meeting and got fired?
Yeah,
it was that meeting. Yeah,
it was that meeting.
yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay, I'm excited to see this video. So this is what's funny. You're asking me stuff that I've learned on this podcast. What's really interesting is like when I have conversations, it's like, how do you know me? Some stories come up, and I'm always like, whoa, I forgot about it. Let's talk about it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this.
I thought there was a better. But see, they're like they dressed us up in toilet paper, and there was like different teams.
Am I there?
I think you're there. Yeah.
Dude, I don't remember that at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, I swear I had a better picture and video of it.
What
I
year
can't
was
find
that?
it. Where did it go? 2009. It can't be 2019. That can't be right. It had to have been 2016 or 17.
Okay. To say, because I wonder if that was when I transitioned to the Econ role.
Oh, it might have been.
Because if it would have been that, would have been that I would have still been technically out of your store, but I wouldn't have been.
You would have been, yeah, working out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I say, I don't remember that. I feel like I totally would remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the snowman thing was your favorite thing you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
See,
there's me as a snowman.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I must have not been there. I must have been Econ at that time.
Son of a gun.
Dang. Okay. Man, I was like, dude, did I erase something from my memory? Okay. No. Okay, cool. So how we're going to do this is I give you the questions ahead of time, and we're just going to go through them, one by one. And the goal is just for, you to share your story and for hopefully the audience and the guests to kind of connect with what you share.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll start at the beginning. So what was growing up like for you?
Wow. Yeah, when you sent me these questions, like I read that and I was like, wow, that's a loaded question.
It really is.
What was growing up like for me? It was interesting. So I was born in Highland Park, Illinois. I lived there till I was about 2 years old. And then when I was 2, we moved to Tennessee. We moved to Cordova, Tennessee. I think it's just outside of Memphis, if I'm correct. Okay. So I lived in Tennessee, and that's when life kind of started, definitely go the opposite direction, I guess you could say. So when I was 3 years old, that's when my grandpa died.
Okay. Yeah.
So my grandpa died when I was 3, and then when I was 6 years old, that's when my mom died. So my mom died when I was 6 years old. There's a whole background story. Basically, her mom actually committed suicide when she was 6 years old. So she, there's a lot of mental health problems with the family. So she was really close to her dad. Right. Yeah. And so, he passed away when I was 3. She had a lot of really hard times with that. And ultimately, she passed away when I was 6 from alcoholism. So, mental health and alcoholism, like on that side of the family, is very, very big.
Yeah. And do you remember it pretty vividly too?
Yeah. Like, it's tough because, our brains do, especially when we're young, they do our best to try to like protect us and try to forget that stuff. Yeah. Most of what I remember is like kind of bad stuff, I remember like a lot of times, she'd be drunk and, she'd tell me not to tell my dad. And like, she'd take me to the store with her and like, would get a bottle of alcohol and be like, hey, don't tell your dad. And so I remember like at an early age, I'd have to choose between, well, do I tell my dad the truth or do I tell my mom the truth? Because, my dad would find out, he'd come home, my mom would smell like alcohol. He'd be like, Alex, did you guys, which is a really crappy situation for a kid to be in.
Yeah, that's way too much responsibility for a young kid. Yeah.
So you know, that was tough for sure. And so she passed away. I've never known my other grandparents either. So my dad, he never knew his dad. He had a really rough childhood. He grew up in a really rough part of New Jersey, and he was very poor growing up. And he used to walk like 5 miles to school, and he had a really rough childhood. His mom was also an alcoholic, and so he never really knew his dad. He never really knew that side of the family. So I didn't really, get that experience, right? Like I've never had the experience of like having grandparents and like going over to like your grandparents' house and like stuff like that. Like, and sometimes it doesn't bother me as much anymore. But especially growing up, I'd hear a lot of friends and stuff be like, "Oh, I gotta go over to my grandma's. I really don't want to go." I'd be like, "Look, I'll go to your grandma's for you."
Exactly,
I'd kill to have grandparents, right? So, so right around 6, that's when things started to get a little weird. So we were still living in Tennessee. After my mom had died, my dad had to obviously find a babysitter. He was working at Harris at the time. He would like he had his master's in tax accounting. He's a very smart guy, so he would like audit different Harris throughout the country. So I had a babysitter, and then he ended up going off to college, and so we had to get a new babysitter. And this family had just moved down the streets, and they had 2 little kids. And so I don't remember how it came about. Maybe we met at the bus stop or something like that. But basically, I started to play with these kids a little bit, and so their mom had offered to babysit me, and things just kind of played out. I won't get too into it, but my dad ended up marrying her.
Oh, wow.
So my babysitter became my stepmom. Okay, so I have a stepsister and a stepbrother, older stepsister, younger stepbrother. And so we pretty much left Tennessee right after that, prior when I turned like 7 or 8. And we moved to Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Now Uniontown, Pennsylvania, it's a very small coal mining town, about an hour outside of Pittsburgh. Not a lot to do there. It's very run down, a lot of, drugs, just not a very vibrant community. And my stepmom's mom was there, and she was kind of poor health at the time. So we had moved there to kind of help out. So we had moved to Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and my dad was still traveling at the time. So, this was a point in my life where, my mom had just died. I had a babysitter, and now she's my mother. I've got these people that were my friends, and now they're my siblings. And my dad is still not here during the week, and I only see him on weekends. So it was really tough for me, Like I had to, I lost my mom, I lost all my friends because I had to move, and then I have to adjust to this new family environment. So it was tough for sure. We lived in Pennsylvania till I was about 10, and then that's when my dad got a job in Kansas City.
Okay.
So we ended up moving to Kansas City, again, when I was like 10 years old, and we've, kind of been here ever since. I like to say Kansas City is kind of home just because, it's been 18 years now. Yeah. So, growing up, like I was very fortunate, I will say, as far as like, from like, shelter and food and clothes. Like I never had to worry about going hungry. I never had to worry about affording things. My family was well off, which I'm super fortunate for. And I think a lot of times, given what's happened to me, with my family, I have a hard time accepting that. Like a lot of people say, oh, well, you grew up, with, money, you know, everything was good, like everything looked all right.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I have a hard time because, you know, on the surface, like everything looks so great. You know, I had everything I could have wanted, but you know, deep down, you still have that void. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, if that makes sense. So there's always that like that piece of you that's missing, um, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but so yeah, I was living in Kansas City, and you know, eventually my dad ended up leaving Harrah's, so he was traveling again for work. So, you know, it was a lot of my childhood was I spent a lot of time with my friends, honestly. You know, my I won't get too into it, but my stepmom and we have an interesting relationship. We definitely love each other, but it's one of those things that you know, we have our disagreements, right? And so it was tough a little bit, you know, because at times, you know, I kind of felt alone. Like you know, I didn't, you know, my dad was that person that I went through everything with, and you know, sometimes, you know, when you're young and you don't know what to do, you just keep it all inside, and that's what I did for a really, really long time. I kept everything inside, and it wasn't until probably 15, 16 years old when things really started to get bad as far as like mental health wise. Right about, yeah, 15. Well, hold on, rewind here. I played baseball growing up. So I played baseball from like 6 till I was 15. So I, you know, I was decent, you know, like I was good. I didn't have the biomechanics and the fundamentals right. So like I played for fun, right? Like most parents like, oh, I just want my kid to have fun. I get it. Like I used to throw the baseball like this. Seriously. Yeah. I'd like sidearm it, not knowing you have to fully extend. So right before, you know, high school baseball, you know, I was like, I wanted to make the baseball team. I ended up not making the baseball team my freshman year, and that like kind of crushed me. And I just remember I was always fast and I started to do track, but at that time, that's when I started to not really experiment with a ton of other drugs, but I definitely started to experiment with like marijuana when I was about 15. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I think at the time that was like my escape, right? Because it was the first time that I felt like that void in me was gone. You know, it's the first time, and I've heard drug addicts actually talk about this quite a bit. Like, I've heard it on, do you know who Gabor Mate is?
I do. Yeah.
So I've heard it on one of his podcasts. You know, he was talking about interviewing a heroin addict, and you know, he asked the heroin addict, like, you know, what is that feeling? Like, what are you chasing whenever you do heroin? And he said, it's like I'm being hugged by my mother. It's like that feeling of warmth and that feeling of like, okay, I'm going to be okay. So I think when I was 15, like that was the first time I really felt that. And so, you know, throughout my entire high school, I mean, that's basically all I did. All I did was, you know, get high and party and kind of just try to run away from the feelings, right? And as we all know, that doesn't work.
It catches up to you, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So that's what happened. You know, it caught up to me. And I remember just like breaking down one day and just going to my dad and just bawling and just telling him everything that's been going wrong in my life. And, you know, for the first, like, you know, he was like, it's okay. Like, and I was, you know, that's really when him and I started to really get a strong relationship, because, you know, he just didn't know I was suffering through all this, because most guys don't talk about it. You know, like we're taught from an early age, like, don't cry, you know, man up. You don't talk about your emotions, like swallow it. And so, you know, it was just one of those things that was really freeing. You know, it was really freeing. So we had a really good relationship from then on out. And, you know, anytime I needed to go to him, you know, that was who I'd confide in. But, you know, after high school, I was still kind of lost a little bit. I had been working at Nike since when I turned 18. I started working there, and then I sort of started moving myself up in the company. Your next question, I kind of answered that a little bit, so I won't go too in depth with it. So I worked at Nike for a bit, and then I ended up getting a promotion, moving to Iowa, helping open up the Altoona store, and then I realized I didn't want to be in Iowa. I hated being in Iowa, and I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't want to do retail anymore. It was one of those things that I was really good at it, and I had someone that like believed in me and pushed me, and so I went all in, and I don't regret it at all. But it's just one of those things that, in hindsight, I don't think I really wanted. So I left Nike. I ended up coming back to Kansas City, moving back in with my parents, and it was just before this time, actually. So we have to rewind a little bit. I found out I had a half sister.
Okay.
So my dad had, I guess, gotten someone pregnant when he was younger, and had no idea.
Oh, wow.
And so one day he gets this message saying that, hey, like, I think I'm your daughter. So I ended up having a half sister. She's like 20 years older than me. And she met my dad, and I won't get too into it, but found out I had a half sister, so that was interesting, with a niece and a nephew as well.
Oh, wow.
And then from then on out, like after Nike, I started to get really depressed again. I was in a relationship when I was in Iowa, and we had called it quits right before I had moved back to Kansas City. And I think just losing my, quitting my job, losing a relationship, just like everything, all that change at once, like really put me in a dark spot.
Yeah.
And right around December of 2018, I started to work out, and I didn't stop. I just started working out in my basement. I had a set of dumbbells from 5 pounds to 30 pounds. I did a little workout program called Body Beast, and I did that for 3 months until I kind of got the courage to like go to a gym. I had a little bit of gym anxiety with it. Yeah. I was like, 30 pounds less than I am. You remember what I used to look like?
Oh, I remember.
I was like a twig, So yeah, I really started working out. I loved how I felt, and I've always had like the drive to help other people. So I decided to go to school. I went to the Wellspring School of Allied Health. It's like a trade school for personal training.
Nice.
So it's like all in person. We go through the movements and stuff. So it's not like your traditional PT route where some people just go online, get a certification, and there's no like real real world kind of experience. So I went through that program, did that, and right around the time when I graduated, that was when it was about a year after I graduated. My dad got cancer. So my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I don't know if you know much about cancer, but pancreatic cancer is pretty much the worst cancer you can get.
Yeah.
The survival rating's 5% for a year. So he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and it was a long year and a half. He fought like all hell. He ultimately last January he passed away. And that was really tough. He meant a lot to me, and at the time I'd also lost my job, literally a week after my dad had died. So it was hard because you didn't really get to mourn. I was more in survival mode than anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I won't go too into it, but there was a lot of debt that he left behind as well. And, you know, bless my stepmom's heart, you know, she had to take on a lot of that. So there's a lot of just moving parts with it. So it was a really, I mean, it was really, really rough couple of months, you know. You know, I had to move out on my own because I moved back in with my parents just to help take care of him. You know, he really wanted me there to, you know, help support him through it. So yeah, like last year sucked. It was really bad. You know, like January, lost my dad. I lost my job. Um, I was just broken. You know, I spent a lot of time doing therapy. A lot of time. Probably spent close to $1,000, honestly, just doing therapy. So you know, yeah, you know, right now I'm in a better place. August of last year, I met my girlfriend, Summer. She's amazing. You know, she helps me a lot. You know, just talking to me helped me, you know, process through things. You know, so you know, without her and the dogs, you know, it'd be very, very difficult for me for sure. And so, you know, after my dad died, you know, I don't have a ton of family, right? Like I do have, I didn't even go over this. I'm so sorry. I have two older half brothers from my dad's previous marriage.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I also have two older half brothers. So I do have some family.
Yeah.
But I had never met my mom's side of the family since she died. So after my dad had died, I reached out to them, and I reconnected with a ton of cousins in Oklahoma. I got to hear a bunch of stories about my mom, which was really, really cool. Yeah. They gave me a couple of things too, like my grandpa's old ring and stuff like that. And it was really cool. Like my cousins are really, really nice people. I love them to death. And unfortunately, my first cousin Rob, he just passed away from lung cancer. Yeah, he'd been fighting it for about 5 years. But yeah, they're amazing people. Gosh, they're so nice, and they just took me in as their own, and it was amazing. Then you know, I'd also said I hadn't really known any of my dad's family. So he had three sisters. One had passed away, and one he didn't talk to. So I had to reach out to her and basically let her know that he's dying.
Yeah.
And so I had kind of started to form a relationship with her and her side of the family. I don't know if you know the name Digger Phelps.
Huh.
So he used to be basketball coach for Notre Dame, like in the, I don't know, probably the 70s or 80s. I'm not really sure. He was my uncle.
Really?
So yeah, he was married to my dad's sister. And yeah, I've never met him before, but yeah, apparently I have an ex-famous uncle somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad's met him. I've never met him, but yeah. So and then I promise this is the last plot twist. When I met my family in Oklahoma, I had found out that I have another half sister. So my mom had given up a baby when she was young, probably like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
And I somehow tracked her down online, and I reached out to her, and we've talked a little bit. And she looks just like my mom. It's actually really weird.
Really?
She sounds just like her.
Wow.
She looks just like her. Yeah, it was a little trippy for me to talk to her on the phone for the first time, but yeah, it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was kind of like
no. Hey, you told a really good not like you told a really good story. So there's a few things I want to talk about. So one, you did talk about Gabor Mate, which I always thought was really fascinating. So I know he's a big, just for the listeners out there, his big thing is obviously trauma, right? Mm-hmm. And he's also a big ambassador for that, like that he believes that a lot of chronic illness has a foundation with trauma, right? So like
passed down from generation.
Exactly. So when you heal the trauma, you heal the chronic illness type thing. I know he talks a lot about that, but yeah, that's really interesting it's fun that you've researched that, because I don't know a lot of people that talk about that, but yeah, he's fascinating. It's a whole different perspective on just illness in general.
Yeah,
I like his perspective.
It is really good.
Yeah, and then another thing I want to chat about is like it's really interesting. So I know we talk about stoicism a lot and we talk about things like that, but like you experienced a lot of loss early in life, right? So eventually everybody's going to experience loss. There's no way about it, right? But you experienced it early. So what do you feel like that has done for you?
I feel like it's given me perspective for sure.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like forced me to probably mature a little bit quicker than most people. I tend to see things like big picture, I feel like, than most people. Like I feel like it makes me care about people more, right? Like, and I think that's because I know what it feels like to be in that position where like you're lost, you don't know what to do, you're confused, you're at rock bottom, like you don't know what to do. And so I think me being able to almost walk through hell and back allows me to be able to just connect with people more and be able to just see things from a perspective that sometimes you're blinded by if you've never experienced it, you know? Like how can you see something when you're blindfolded, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like through a lot of pain, I think empathy shows up a lot in those spaces, right? So I think about that all the time too, because even I don't feel like I was a very empathetic person until I went through a divorce. I feel like that was like the thing that made me, like, once I started feeling a lot and going through all this, I started realizing, like, you know what, like I just had a whole new perspective when I would talk to people. It was interesting.
Like when you had that perspective, did you ever look back on certain situations, been like, oh, I could have done that so much differently? Like I wish I would have.
But that's part of the grieving process too, right? So like that's the thing. So it's because I rewound so much, and that's actually why I changed so much about what I was doing at the time. Like I went into full ramp up mode just on like trying to better myself, getting to the gym again, just doing all this stuff, just because I was like, I could have done this, and this better. But also the thing is too, is like at a certain point I got to a level where I was like, you know what, even if all those moments were different, I can't guarantee that the outcome would have been any different, right?
Exactly.
So it was one of those things where it was like, that actually was very freeing for me, because I think I went through a year or so where I was very dialed into like, if I just would have done this, and then once I had that, that epiphany or whatever, I was just like, oh yeah, there's no guarantee it would have been better. And then the thing is too, is I think about who I am now versus who I was, wouldn't change it.
That's the biggest, you hear that so often with people who have gone through trauma or gone through hardship. It's like, I wouldn't have changed it because I know how much of a better person I am. I would never wish it on anyone else.
Oh, of course.
Like the pain you went through, no, but the wisdom that you gain from it is priceless.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy too. And that's the thing, is that's what trauma is, right? So trauma is when something bad happens and you don't find a way out of it, right? So there's no way forward. So of course it becomes trauma because you didn't move past it, right? But it's funny how like there's two forms there, right? You can either be stuck, or you can make it through. And if you make it through, it's always positive, right? Because you made it through you made it through like the toughest moment you could think of, right? You found a way out when it seemed like there was no way out.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Yeah. So it's fascinating. I was listening to that on podcast and it just was like, oh, okay. So trauma is just getting stuck, essentially.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. It's really interesting.
Yeah. It's just getting trapped in there. We hold so much stress and, shoulders and hips. Maybe that's where trauma is.
They say that too. Like, that's why people are muscle tense all the time. Like, are you stressed? Yeah, because it's showing up in the body, right? It could be trauma. Yeah. They talk a lot about that. So, yeah, I never really have any aches or anything. So I take that as I don't probably have a lot of trauma. No chronic illnesses. So I think I'm good. But no, I don't know. It's a funny. I do think about that though. Ever since I've listened to Gabor Mate, I'm always like, okay, I think I'm good.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
The minute I get something going, I'm like, oh no, is it trauma or do I need to change some type of eating? That's
I
need to change something. So that's funny.
Yeah, or do I need to, maybe warm up a little bit more or something like that?
That's actually probably what it is, right? It's funny. Okay, so I know we growing up, you talked about a lot of different points, and you might have already mentioned it a little bit, but the next question I like to ask is, what's the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
I'd say probably my dad's death.
Yeah.
And I only say that, like, my mom's death was hard, but I was so little that I
Yeah.
don't think my brain could quite process it too much.
Yeah.
After she passed away, I would get like chronic migraines as a kid, and then I'd like throw up. But then like that happened for like a month, and then it stopped. So I don't know if that was like my brain's way of trying to like process it.
Yeah.
But that definitely didn't happen, obviously, as a 28 or how old was I when he died? 26 year old. But yeah, that was the hardest for sure. So just to I'll kind of give you the story why it was so hard. So his last couple days, he was, basically just 100% bedridden. We had hospice come into the house for the last 2 days because it was starting to get to the point where like we really couldn't care for him.
Mm-hmm.
He started out when he was diagnosed, I think he weighed like 235 pounds, and when he died, he was probably 140.
Oh wow!
So he was, yeah, like he looked like a Holocaust.
Yeah.
He was very, very skinny. So his last day, he was very, very out of it. We tried to give him everything under the sun to make him comfortable and just out of pain, but he was in pain, 24/7. So his last day, we're trying to get a nurse to come over, and he's hallucinating. He's trying to rip his catheter out. He's trying to get out of bed.
Mm.
So I'm basically wrestling my dad, like trying to keep him on the bed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he was so strong. Like he was like $140,
Yeah.
but he was like pushing me. So like wrestling my dad, trying to get him to stay on the ground. My mom's on the phone with hospice, trying to get a nurse there, and we knew that the time was coming. So my mom and I, which just for the viewers, I call her mom. She's my stepmom, but
yeah,
mom. We had talked about, hey, this is probably it. Like, let's call the siblings and stuff. We need to get everyone here because, like, we don't know how much longer he's gonna last. So she gave me a little bit of time with him alone. I said my goodbyes. I told him I loved him. Told him to give me a sign. Told him, when you make it, let me know. Give me some sort of sign. So fighting him, finally the nurse comes. She's like, hey, I don't think I can really do anything. We need to get him into an actual hospice house. So she calls an ambulance. The way our house layout works, there's a bunch of different furniture that like is in the way of the stairs.
Yeah.
So when the ambulance got there, I had to move a bunch of furniture so they could take the wheelchair upstairs, grab him, and carry him downstairs. So I was just running around, like moving stuff, and then I had to take all 4 dogs and bring them outside. We have 4 like 80-pound Weimaraners, so I'm like holding all these dogs, and there are these 2 paramedics. Bless this kid's heart, it was his first day on the job.
Oh wow!
And he had to see my dad not in great condition. They had to pick him up in the wheelchair, carry him all the way down. I remember making eye contact with him for the last time as they're loading him in the ambulance, just looking at each other, and he probably didn't know what was going on, but so took him to the hospice house at probably like 1:30, I want to say. I probably got there at like 4 o'clock. Then my brothers had flown in at that point, and about 6 or 7 o'clock, it was just the 3 of us in that room, and we were just sharing stories about my dad, and we all went outside just to grab some coffee. We were exhausted. I've been up since like 5 a.m. fighting my dad, and I decided to go back in the room, and he was making this god awful noise. It was like just in so much pain, dying. When I went back in there, I noticed that he wasn't making the noise anymore. So I went up to him, said his name a couple times. Nothing. So I checked his pulse, and he was gone. So I went to grab the nurses. They came in, and they, said he was gone. Yeah, that was stuff really hard. Really hard.
You said that happened just last January, right?
Yeah, just last January, yeah.
Still hard to process, isn't it? Yeah.
It really doesn't feel like, it's been almost 2 years now, honestly. Yeah, it'll be 2 years in this coming January. So, yeah, some days it doesn't feel real. Like I just, I wake up and I don't really think that like I can text my dad or anything, but you wake up and you forget, and then you remember, and it's, I don't know, you kind of get used to it after a while, but yeah, it sucks waking up for a little bit.
Can you imagine? You guys had a tight bond too.
Yeah. You ask most people, you'd say that like, we're like best friends, we, yeah.
I think when I reconnected with you, it was right after your dad passed, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
At the Nike store there.
Yeah. It was, pretty shortly after. I think I came in like 2 or 3 months after he passed, yeah. So, yeah, that was by far the hardest thing that I've gone through. It was, and I think a lot of it, too, which my therapist kind of alluded to me, was I never really got to mourn my mom's death either. So I think
it might have been compounded then, huh?
When my dad died, a lot of that started to come up too. So, like, it wasn't necessarily their fault. Like, I was 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
Maybe like they had offered me to like go like talk to a counselor. Funny story about that, actually. They had asked my stepbrother and stepsister if they wanted to go too, and they were not as reluctant to go as I was. See, I thought they asked us, do you guys want to go help little kids that have lost family members before? And I said yes. I didn't know that we were going there because they wanted to help us. So when we went, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
So that just alludes to like, I've always just been someone that like wants to help people. It's just ever since I was a little kid, like, yeah.
Oh, makes a lot of sense too. So it's really interesting how that works. So to your point, you talked about, when you were a kid and kind of almost, when I think about that, I also think about too, like the resiliency of kids, right? You think about like the stuff they go through. And I was listening to something, and it might be a little bit like, so listeners out there, if you want to take your kids to therapy, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I listened to this thing, and they actually talked about how therapy can actually be bad for kids.
Oh yeah?
Which is interesting. And the reason why is they say kids have ways of like naturally being able to evolve with situations, right? So kind of like how you said you did, like you knew it happened. You said you had like migraines and stuff happen for a month, but then somehow you kind of figured it out. And why they said it could be harmful is because the kid is finding ways to get through this issue. And if you go to someone, they're going to keep bringing up this issue. And as a kid, they said the kids can't really discern like you do as adults. Like when you can say like how you can say like, you know what, I don't agree with you, or like you can kind of pick and choose what the therapist says and be able to like decipher that, right? Where they said kids don't, they kind of just do whatever they're told, or they listen everything they just take in. And they think that that actually could be harmful for the fact they think that's why so many people have like anxiety disorders these days and different things like that
Really?
because they keep because when they were kids, right? So they just kept bringing up that therapy, right? And what happens is in therapy, sometimes they like to label things. So people like, hey, you have
Oh,
ADHD or
yeah.
you have this. And what happens is that ends up tending to be a crutch too. Sometimes we're like, I have this, and then that's an excuse to not move forward and do something else. So
100%.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. So that's why like therapy, it's fascinating. So like everybody can choose and believe whatever they want, but I thought that was a really interesting piece of like insight, right? That it's a good way to look at it. So that was just something that. So when you brought that up, I was like, I'm not surprised that you, as a kid, you figured that out, and who knows, that might have actually been, according to that study, that might have been actually beneficial.
The best thing for me, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, the whole label thing, especially with, mental health nowadays, I think it's dangerous, man. Fitting someone in a category,
Agreed. Yeah.
It's not I don't think it's good,
Well, yeah, and I think about it too, like this is what's interesting is because if you think about anxiety, why do people get anxiety? A lot of times you get anxiety because you have a fear of something. Well, why do you have a fear of something? Well, because I haven't done it yet. Okay, so lack of experiences can bring on anxiety disorders. So you think instead of saying, hey, you have this anxiety disorder, why don't you try some new experiences? Try something you haven't done before. And guess what? Anxiety is actually part of that process of not doing something.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think the younger generation, I think we've been coddled too much to a certain extent. And I don't think we've had enough experiences that actually would help us not to have anxiety disorders. So that's why a lot of it too, like I'm always curious about the root of it. Like I get the anxiety. That's like what you're saying this is right now, but what's causing it? Oh, they haven't had enough experiences? Well, let's go do something you're not comfortable with. And it's like, but I'm scared of that. But guess what? Everybody's scared of that.
Scared of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So next question. Let me find my notes here real quick. Let's see. What's something you're currently going through that's positive or negative?
Something I'm currently going through that's positive or negative. Let me see if I wrote this down. Come on. Oh yeah, okay. So, learning how to live life without, like, how do I put this? Learning how to live life without reassurance, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So
without
for example,
validation, without.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it was like, I liked I like my dad to be proud of me, and I liked approval from my dad.
Yeah.
And I think, and I also like he'd always check in on me, right? So like he'd always just text me like, "Hey, just want to see what's up, like how you doing?"
Yeah.
Ever since he died, like I don't get that anymore. Like I don't get anyone checking up on me. I don't have like, if shit ever, okay, cuss.
Yeah.
If shit ever hit the fan, like my dad would like be there to help me out, right?
For sure.
Like I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Granted, like not a lot of people do, but that's something that I'm not used to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not used to not having someone in my corner, right?
Yeah.
And not that like people wouldn't help me out or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's weird, like for the first time, I truly feel like an adult. Like I paid bills before, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, but this is like the first time where I'm like, well, like, like you don't have anybody else to check, like you don't have grandparents to check on you, you don't have parents to check on you, you don't have, so it's like, it's, you can either take action and do what you want to do, or you can die, it's like, I don't have another choice, and that's, this is just something I want to talk about. A lot of people, when you go through really hard times, like, gosh, you are so brave. I don't know how you can do it. And, every single time, I don't get mad. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you think I want to do this? Like, you think I asked for my parents to be dead and like
Yeah.
I wanted to push through all this? Like, I didn't have a choice.
You had to.
I had to do it.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I didn't, like, there was no other option. Like, I had to. And if I didn't, then I wouldn't be here talking to you. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's so true, right? So yeah, because you have to, because you either make it through or you don't.
Yeah.
And I see plenty of times where people don't, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So what about something you said that was? What about a positive thing that you've been?
Oh, positive thing that I'm going
if
through
you
right
want to,
now?
you don't have to if you don't want to. But.
Oh yeah, just I think something positive. This is the first time I've lived with a girlfriend before, so we live with each other now, and so things are it's positive. Things are going really well,
Good.
so it's good. Our dogs get along. You know,
Okay.
we both like feel like we're very equal with like tasks and stuff in the house and stuff
Okay.
like that. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been great, man. It's great. I was a little weary at first living with a woman, not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's you know what? It's good. It's good.
See, I forget what that was like. What's funny is because I got married really young, so like basically I moved out of my parents' house into a place with her essentially.
Okay.
So I don't even know what it was like. I didn't even know what it was like. Like I was used to living with someone like forever. So actually the weirdest thing was actually living not with someone. So after a divorce, it was weird just being like, I'm just kind of here. It's just me. Everything's quiet. There's nothing going on.
Yeah. What was that? Did you go through like a period of I don't know, maybe just like sadness, just because like
dude, I was sad all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be in my apartment. Like, so when I lived there, I was literally like, I made it a point. I did make it a point to sit there, feel what I needed to feel, and meditate a lot too. So that was what I was doing. But I'd go to the gym, and like at nighttime, because I was like, I don't know what to do, I would go on walks. I was walking 6 to 10 miles every day.
Holy cow.
Just around, and I just walk until I felt like coming back home. Just because I didn't know how to process things. It felt weird being alone. Like, yeah, it was a very interesting time for sure.
I mean, other than, maybe calling someone, you did everything right though. Like, seriously.
Well, I told myself that I wasn't going to do any harmful habits.
Yeah.
Because I've still never had alcohol, but that could have been a possibility. I didn't do drugs. I've never done drugs. So that was one thing I didn't do. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't do anything stupid. And I was tempted like to maybe jump in a relationship, but I didn't. I waited like 9 months or a year before I even thought about anything like that, which was probably good too. But dude, it was wild, and I don't know, and I don't remember, and I hate because I don't like taking credit for it because I don't feel like I was conscious. Like I felt like my body was just like, hey, you need to go to the gym, and I just ended up at the gym. Like you need to go on a walk. I just went on a walk. Like it's just like I just was doing things. It felt like it was on autopilot, but it was all good things. It was really interesting. So
that is very interesting.
That's why when people say that, I was like, I don't remember doing it. I just remember
like usually it's the polar opposite. People get sad. They're like, oh, I don't want to leave bed, But you were like, oh, we got to get out,
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what to do. Yeah. Like now, if I get sad, like sometimes it's more like I just want to go and just lay down for a bit and just
Yeah.
But yeah, during that time, I guess because it was so overwhelming that I just didn't know what to do. I think there was also a lot of anger, which is obviously an action-oriented emotion, right? So I think that was some of it too. So it was sadness and anger, and those are both kind of tied together. So like, yeah, I think that's one reason why it's like I couldn't just sit there.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting.
If you did, you might have had a hole in your wall or something. Might as well go on a walk.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. That's the thing is maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Dude, I was the weird guy too. So like, I was literally like, I'd have my earbuds in, and I would be walking, 6 to 10 miles, whatever I was doing, and I'd be singing all these lyrics. I had all these songs that just playing, and I was just yelling at the top of my lungs. So I was that guy that's just like, what's this guy doing? What's his problem? But I was going through so much. It's like, I don't care what anybody thinks.
That's so cool though. Like you were able just to like express yourself like openly,
I express. Yeah, I did.
That's
I had a whole playlist of sad songs. It's funny now because when I listen to those songs, I'm like, ooh, let's skip that one. Because it'll take you back there, which sometimes I like to go back there, and it's kind of a fun reminder. So sometimes I'll listen to some songs.
Isn't that amazing how music can do that?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I always, if people like, are typically sad, I always ask them what kind of music they listen to. And 9 times out of 10, they like usually listen to those really sad songs. I'm like, well, yeah, you're putting yourself in that state. Like,
Yeah.
listen to something a little bit more positive.
Do you listen to Andrew Huberman?
Yeah.
Okay, so Huberman, he did a study on or an episode on the brain and music. It was fascinating. He talks about that. He's talking about how, like, to process sad emotions, actually you should listen to sad music. And he talked about how sad music tends to be like, was he saying, like 60 beats per minute? It was like a slower tempo, and somehow it helps you process those types of emotions. And he also talked about music to help you focus and things like that. And like, if you listen to music that's 160 beats per minute and above right before a certain task, it'll help motivate you to do this. And he was also talking about like how learning an instrument at a young age can help with connectivity of the left and right parts of the brain by like 30%, which can help you function better in other aspects of life. And it was really interesting. So he's talking about a lot of stuff like that. So that's why when he said the sad music thing, I was like, that's something he said. And I was like, I know that to be true, because that's exactly what I do. Is it's like, I'm feeling sad music. And it's like, okay, which you think that's like counterproductive, right? You think like, wouldn't you listen to happy music? It's like, no, because you're not happy.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Because it's not about getting rid of the emotion, it's about feeling it, right?
Right,
It's
right,
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay, let's see. So the next one is, what is a skill or talent that you'd like to share with us?
Skill or talent. Yeah, I forgot I wrote this down. I'm really good at impersonations and like doing voices, like voice acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can you give us an example?
I can do Stitch. Hello, my name is Stitch.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Stitch. What else can I do? Hi, my name's Kevin Malone. Have you know The Office? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I can do. Did you ever hear my Joker bit when I was at Nike?
I did. Are you gonna do it for us?
Yeah. You want me to do it?
Do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend. And one night he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy grabs the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So, me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it. He turns to me. He says, "Why so serious?" He comes at me with the knife. "Why so serious?" He sticks the blade in my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. And why so serious?
It's a good one. Hey, you nailed that. That was spot on, bro. So, hey, we should do a skit.
We should
do a skit because I can totally talk like Batman.
Let's hear it.
Let me see. What's something he says? Because I haven't seen those in a while.
Rachel.
that's what he's yelling.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me do a little talk. Somebody's got. He's got. I don't know. Let's see. I am Batman.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
And I could, we could get somewhere with that.
We could
have some fun.
Yeah.
So that's funny. I like doing voices too. It's funny, but I never really thought about it too much. I found out I'm really bad at accents.
Yeah, oh man. If it's
accents I can't do, but I can do impersonations too. That's why when you did it, I was like, yeah, let me hear it.
Every time I try to do an accent, especially a British accent, it always slightly goes Australian.
I do too. Dude, I do too. I have someone that makes fun of me all the time about it. And so I do it anyways just to make them laugh.
Yeah.
But
it's great.
Oh, dude, it's hilarious. But yeah, impersonations, I love doing that stuff.
I can do Arnold. You get the pump.
Yeah. Okay.
You get the delts. The blood in the muscle.
Okay, I dig it. Look at that, impersonations. It's funny, until you said that, I totally forgot about it, but I remember you doing the Joker impression for me. But when you did it for me the first time, it was not nearly that good.
Oh, okay.
You were like this was like I was in the movie.
Good.
That was good. I like that. So, there's something else I was going to say. I don't remember now. Dang it. Oh, well. That was good. Oh, yeah. So when I was at Branson, there was also a guy who used to do impersonations, but he was bad at them.
Really?
So bad. But he was so expressive. So what was funny is he's like, which I've never seen Death Note, but he's like, I do Death Note impression. I guess the anime or something. I don't know. And I was like, you do? He's like, you want to see it? And I was like, sure. And I was just expecting this is like a lunch break, and I was expecting him just to like do it across from me. He stands up and he gets like 2 inches from my face and is like doing this impression like this far. And first of all, he's a really weird guy, anyways. But it was like, okay, cool, dude. but like that's like my only other person that I've had do impressions for me, and it was pretty rough. But he was like so into it, like inch from my face, like doing
you're like
this thing.
trying to eat, and he's like
he's literally right there, and I'm just like letting him do it. And that was like, sweet man, sweet. And I was like, I guess he might have done well. I've just never seen Death Note, so I can't say for sure. But he just made me laugh because he was so intense about it. It was good.
It's awesome.
Okay. That's what we're going to do. We should rehearse a skit from The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
We should do it, and we'll do it together. We'll do it for fun sometime.
Yeah. That'll be the intro of the next podcast episode.
Yep. So there's this video on YouTube. You should probably watch it. I forgot that I did this thing called, what did I call it? I don't remember now. It was some Batty Man or something. I just had this video where my little brother left a Batman mask at my house, and I just started doing Batman impressions with it and doing random stuff. It's embarrassing.
This is on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, but it's embarrassing as
man.
can be. It's on my band page of all things when I was doing band music. I'll show it to you after we're done. But I was literally doing just random Batman stuff and just popping up. And I think what inspired me was the SNL skit with Andy Samberg. Did you ever watch that one?
Which one?
It's a Batman one. It's where he's Batman and he just keeps showing up at random times.
Yes, I have seen that.
And that's what inspired me. So like, I want to try it just for fun because my brother left his mask there. And
then he just shows up and people are like, what the
yeah. I think the Riddler's up to something. Huh? How did you get there? So like, yeah. So yeah, I'll show you that video offline. But yeah, we could totally do something.
Let's do it. I'm so down.
Okay, cool. So what is something you're learning about currently that you can teach us?
What am I learning about that I could teach? Let's see here. Oh, are we skipping the someone who changed your life question?
Actually, I did skip it on accident.
Oh, so
do you want to do that one first? Do that one first. Do that one first.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it's not in the exact order that I sent it to you. Anna.
Gotcha. Okay. So, actually, I've had two people that have changed my life. The first one was actually Danny. Remember Danny?
Okay.
From Nike?
Yeah.
So he was the first person that had ever, like, I personally thought believed in me.
Yeah.
So, like, I think when Danny started working at the store, I was full-time at the time. You know, I was a good worker. Like, I kept my head down, didn't get in trouble, did what I was told, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he came up to me and he was like, has anyone ever, like, talked to you about, like, advancing in this company at all? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, I can't believe no one's ever, like, come up to you and asked you if you, like, want to, like, pursue, like, be a manager because you're, like, really good at what you do. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. He was like, is that something that, like, you would be interested in? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So, like, he was, like, the first person that kind of, like, took me under his wing and, like, pushed me out of my comfort zone. Because when I was an athlete at Nike, like, I had, talk about anxiety. I had really bad social anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you remember when I first became a manager.
Yeah, you were always
terrified to talk in front of people. Terrified.
Yeah, I remember you're always very quiet. That's all I remember that for sure. Yeah.
I was always very quiet, terrified talking in front of people. And so he was really the first person that, like, pushed me out of my comfort zone. And like we were kind of talking about earlier, like, hey, this makes you uncomfortable and you don't like it, it gives you anxiety, do more of it, right?
Yeah.
Like when we'd have visits from our district manager, like he'd make me do the apparel walks and like run him through the numbers. And while I might have had 2 liters of sweat coming down, I did it, right?
Yeah, you did it. Yeah.
So he was like the first person that really I felt like believed in me and changed my life. The second person, David Goggins. Yeah, get David Goggins. I'd be surprised if you didn't.
Yeah.
Right around that time, I told you I was, gone through that breakup, had moved back in with my parents. I had listened to Can't Hurt Me I listened to the audiobook. I don't know if you ever listened to the audiobook.
I haven't, no.
So it's actually it's an audiobook and a podcast.
Okay.
It's really it's about 16 hours. It's really good though.
Okay.
They talk a lot about stuff that's not in the book.
Okay.
So I listened to that, and that's really what like really started getting me motivated to start working out, because I listened to his story and I was like, gosh, if this guy can overcome everything that he did, and he, you know, is this ultimate badass, then what's my excuse, right? Like, what the heck's my excuse?
Yeah.
So that's when I really started to hit the ground running. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't listen to too much David Goggins, actually, surprisingly, because I feel like a lot of people think I would, but for some reason, I'm not the biggest fan.
It's weird. You know, some people don't resonate with him.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I love the fact that it helped you, and like I know it's helped a ton of people, but for some reason, just listening to it, it didn't resonate with me very much. And who knows? That could just be the way I like to learn, and that's not the type I like. Like we were talking offline, like Jordan Peterson, I listen to Ryan Holiday, people like that. Like those are the people I like to listen to. But yeah, David Goggins just was never my thing, which is really interesting.
Yeah. I can see that, because like Jordan Peterson, Ryan Holiday, very intellectual people.
They're intellectual types.
Yeah,
I love intellectual. Yeah.
And you know, not that, you know, I don't know David Goggins. You know, I don't know if he's smart or not, but you know, his approach is a little bit different. Yeah,
I like Jocko Willink though.
Jocko's great
because I think Jocko's a good balance between both. Like
he
I feel
really
like if you have David Goggins here and you have Ryan Holiday here, I feel like he's got that middleman, and I like that.
100%. Yeah. And I love what he does with his company. It's like all American made stuff. And yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I like Jocko. And then, yeah, it's funny, Danny too. I've heard so many stories about how Danny's impacted people in a positive way, which is really interesting because I don't know if me and Danny got along.
Yeah.
We were one of the few people that, like, it's funny, and I think it's just because maybe we're more similar, maybe. I don't know. All I know is I remember we would have creative decision differences a lot, or we'd butt heads from time to time, but I know that, like, I've heard enough of, like, really good experiences from people that I know he did a really great job with people, so
yeah,
it's cool to hear that.
Yeah.
So, that's cool.
Yeah, he is hit or miss with people like them, for sure.
Yeah. It's just different, right?
Or if you get along,
yeah. And then, okay, so how about skill or talent now? Or did we do that already? No. What did we do? No, we did skill or talent.
You asked me, and then we went back to that question.
Okay, so I forgot. We already did skill or talent. What are you learning about currently that you'd like to teach us? That was the question we were on.
Oh, okay. What did I write down? Oh, yeah, this is good. Okay, this is a gem right here.
Okay, good.
Time is the most valuable thing you have.
Okay, explain.
Yeah, just time's the most valuable thing you have. You know, like so many people take for granted what they have in their life right now, and they don't realize that it could be gone tomorrow. You know, it could be as simple as like that 1090 podcast I was talking to you about. That guy lost his wife, his daughter, his son, his brother, and his nephew in like an hour. You lost your whole family in an hour. Like, so time is very limited, and you need to do things with your loved ones while you can.
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of people take that for granted, and I know I certainly did. You know, like there was a lot of times when I probably could have hung out with my dad, more, something like that. You know, time is, how you spend your time matters, right? We all, like, the only thing we are guaranteed is death. So, how you spend your time is literally your life, right? You can sit here and, keep thinking one day, I'll do this, one day I'll do that. But all it's going to turn into is that one day comes, you're going to look back and say, I wish. I wish I did that. I wish I would have done that. So, try the things that scare you. And don't be afraid to love someone too hard. Because I feel like a lot of us, whether that's because we're afraid of rejection or we're afraid of loss, we don't love as hard as I think we could.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny, relationships are like some of the most important things in the world, right?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times we get skewed on what's important, right? We think our career is the most important, or money is most important. Don't get me wrong, like to a certain extent, like you need those things to
Oh,
survive.
absolutely, yeah.
But I think we put too much emphasis on it, especially here in America, right? Because I think the biggest thing is I think when like I've heard tons of stuff where when people die or when people are dying on their deathbed, it's never usually like I wish I had more money or I wish I did this job even harder than I did. It's always like I wish I would have spent more time with my loved ones and stuff like that. So, but it's crazy that it takes us those types of experiences sometimes for us to be like, oh yeah, I should have done that. So
Or
no,
like,
no,
like I wish I would have made up with that person. Like,
exactly,
stupid
yeah,
little fights that like drive
yeah,
people apart. It's like at the end of the day, how worth it is that to you?
yeah.
You know? You're gonna look back on it on your last breath and regret it, or you just, gonna be the bigger person and initiate some sort of contact.
Agreed,
Yeah.
agreed. And I like that you mentioned embracing mortality, right?
Yes.
It's like a big thing. It's funny because people think like, oh, that's negative. No, it's not. It's actually a positive thing because it's going to happen.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
think about the fact that hey, like I could die tomorrow, I could die, like you're going to actually do the things that you might want to do, right? Say yes to the right things.
And it's so interesting you bring that up because I don't know if it's something we've done in America. I don't know how it is in Europe or anything. But it's almost like death is this thing, like it's not celebrated. It's this very sad thing. You got to
Hmm.
put on all these black clothes, which don't get me wrong, death is very sad.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but like, what if we celebrated it? Like there's certain cultures that when someone dies, they celebrate it
I
because they're
know.
going back with their ancestors. They're going
Mhm.
back to
Yeah,
whatever they believe in,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like what's stopping us from doing that?
I know. It should be celebrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Because I don't know. I've listened to things before, so death is such an interesting thing because I feel like so many people talk like they know what happens after we die, and it's like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no way you can. Like, how can you know? You're dead.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. But like I've heard some people like I've heard some stuff before that was like if you actually knew what death was, you wouldn't fear it, and I thought that was an interesting thing to think about. Is like what if death is like it's just part of life? What if it's literally like stepping into something different? What if it's becoming energy with the rest of stuff? Like we really don't know. But what if it's actually not that bad? What if we come back? Like who knows? Like what if you just keep recycling lives
Yeah.
and then death is just like a restart?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Like
Just the reset button.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So like it's an interesting take on it, but I do think that we get so much emphasis like this is all we have, which I get like that might actually be true, but I think we get too caught up on like yeah, let's celebrate it. Let's I don't know. It's just interesting to think about, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, death is very fascinating.
Yeah. And it's I used to be scared of death, but I think honestly after my dad passed away, I'm not really scared of it because I kind of saw it happen.
Yeah,
I literally saw my dad die.
yeah,
Um, and it's, like it was, well, some of it wasn't peaceful, but like, just seeing him lay there, like it was over,
yeah,
like it's that. So it's, I think it's one of those things that, yeah, not like that, like, oh, like,
Where are we going with that?
no,
Hey,
no, not like, oh, I don't care if I die. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
live my life to the edge and jump off this cliff. But
Yeah.
it's like, it's not something that's like on the back of my mind that I'm like, oh, I'm so scared. Like,
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I think it's a good way to look at life too, though. Like I think it's like knowing that you're going to pass one day. I think helps you do the things that you want to do, but also I think not fearing death is also a very positive thing as well, right? Like I don't know. I think it works hand in hand. Okay, so what's something you're doing for fun currently?
I kind of talked about this. I'm getting back into fishing, so I've been doing a lot of fishing.
Nice.
Usually on Sunday mornings. Um, Other than that, I'm starting to get back into archery a little bit too. Starting to shoot my bow. Stopped for a very long time. Then I just kind of started back up again. Other things for fun, man. I feel like I'm boring now. As every year I get older, I stay inside more and more.
Yeah. You don't go bow fishing, do you?
I've never been. I would really like to.
I mean, archery and fishing. It seems like you put them together. That seems like brilliant.
You might be a genius.
I'm just saying. I just imagine just shooting some fish.
Gotcha. No, I've never done it before. I think you're kind of limited, like what fish you can probably get. Probably like carp and gar. It's about it.
I mean, I haven't done any research, so I don't know.
You're like, actually, I know everything about bow fishing.
Bow fishing, yeah. That'd be fun. Okay, so fishing. So what's your biggest catch so far?
Oh, man. I've probably caught like recently or like lifetime.
Just whenever, yeah.
I've caught I've probably caught like a 6-7 pound bass before, like a pretty big bass.
Nice.
Like one that's like wall mounted worthy. It's probably my biggest one, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't do noodling then, huh?
I don't.
I said on the last podcast, I brought that up too. He said he fishes. I was like, so do you noodle? That's like my go-to. Anybody says fishing, and everybody's like, nah. I was like, okay. I just think it's the most ridiculous thing ever. But people catch like crazy catfish, but it's like, but you're really stupid.
Well, like you're sticking their hands in these holes. Like it could be a water moccasin.
I'm saying it could be anything. Snapping turtle, whatever, and you're just like, hey,
alligator snapping turtle. You just no hand.
Yeah, like whoops.
Yeah, wild. I don't. Yeah.
But then I guess, I mean, if that's your goal in life, maybe, I guess, if it's like, I mean, I guess that's how you catch the big catfish, huh?
I guess, I mean, you could just use a hook and a rod, but...
You could, but why when you have arms? Oh, that's so silly. Okay, well, I'm glad you're not noodling then.
I mean, I am too. My hands look pretty clean.
Okay, we got 3 more questions. So, we covered quite a bit today. So, if you were to write a story or a book of your life so far, from when you started to right now, what would that story be called?
Oh, let me see here. You know, it's actually really funny. My girlfriend loves to write. She's and so we joked about how she's going to write a book about my life, and it's going to be a kid's book, and we're going to call it "The Little Sloth That Could Run." Okay,
tell me more about that.
It's just about, you know, like a little sloth that you know, would dream about running, and you know, he's a sloth, so he can't really do that.
Yeah.
So he's walking out through life, and he has all these things happen to him, and he realizes that it's not how fast he goes, it's about the consistency of walking and how long it takes to get there. So it's just about you just got to keep going, you know. So that was, you know, I don't know, we just like randomly came up with that one night. I thought it was funny.
It's fitting though.
Yeah,
since you explained it, it makes a whole lot of sense. I like that.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the thumbnail of this video, by the way.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah,
The Little Sloth That Could Run. If they want to figure out what that means, they just have to watch it.
Yeah, that might be a good clickbait.
I'm saying clickbait. Okay, sweet. I like that. And then now, so this is kind of like this is the part of the podcast where we get to the last question, where you get to kind of share what you want. So if you want to market any business stuff that you want, if you want to share your social out, just anything you want to do, or if there's anything else you want to share that we haven't talked about, this is kind of that time. So
okay,
whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So if anyone's ever interested in you know, bettering their health and fitness, I'm a personal trainer. I work at MaxFit Kansas City, MaxFit KC. We're over here off of 64th Street near Parkville. We do group training, nutrition, one-on-one PT, and I mean, you won't regret it. Like, we have a really, really cool thing going on here. We have a very welcoming gym. So, you know, we're all very, very friendly, and everyone's here to help you out. And everyone here is very passionate about what we do. So, good vibes for sure.
Okay. Did you hear that? You won't regret it.
You won't regret it. Anything else that I'm promoting here? No, not really. I can't think of anything. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Cool. So MaxFit KC, personal training.
Yeah.
You're the guy. This is the good environment.
Yeah. Well, we also have other great trainers here too. Yeah. But
I've only met one, so so far. So I can't confirm or deny.
He's still a little wary about.
I had a good workout though. Okay, sweet. Okay, so this is one of my favorite parts of the podcast. This is how we end it. What we do is we have each guest create a question for the next guest.
Okay.
So you have a question that you didn't get to study, which is nice, from the previous guest.
Yeah.
And then you get to create your question for the next person that's going to be on, whoever that may be. So the question is, let's see. The question is, what is the regret that you wish you could erase from your timeline?
After my dad died, my stepmom and I got into a really big argument, and I said some things that I really, really regret.
Yeah.
And if I could take back anything, I'd take that back, because it's kind of put a hole in our relationship, and I take a lot of that blame.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you apologized to her?
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
But it's still there because
it's still yeah. We're still a little rocky. You know, we've made up, but you know, still a little rocky.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes those things take time too.
It does take a little bit of time. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good answer. So then, what's a question you'd like to leave the next guest?
What's your purpose while you're here?
What's your purpose? Okay. So what's cool too is I do little episodes. So I mean, you saw the 10 episode special. So what I'll do is I'll also answer all these questions in those episodes.
Oh, cool.
So I did 1 through 10, I think, last time. I've actually already done over 20 episodes. You're actually going to be guest, I think, number 22, I think.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so you'll be on that list. So that's why I'm not going to answer it now, but I will answer it for you eventually. So
right on.
So anything else that you want to share before we close down the podcast episode?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for what you do. This is awesome. I love that you're able to have people come on here and talk about different perspectives, and I think that's so important. Like, as humans, we learn from each other, and if you can't put yourself in someone else's shoes, then you're limiting yourself on how much you can grow.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I want to keep growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on here, and I appreciate you sharing all those stories too. So like I said, some people share deeply, some people maybe don't, and that's okay. But I really appreciate that you shared, you were very vulnerable with us. And
yeah.
I appreciate it, because I think that makes some of the best conversations too, because it's like what you said, it's a perspective that maybe some of us don't get. And to see that come from you, and you be able to share that, I think is very, very rewarding, right? As far as it's something we can really cherish, and I think it's probably special for you too, being able to share that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you kind of talk about stuff that happens, a little bit of weight comes off your shoulders. So it's nice that I was able to talk about it a little bit, and anything I can do to if there's even just one person that watches it and gets a different a light bulb moment from anything that I've said or you've said, that's worth it, man.
I agree.
Any sort of service that I can provide for others, man, that's it. It's my purpose, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually I close out with a handshake, but I think what we need to do is we need to do the Predator handshake, since we're both wearing this. You watched the Predator, right? The movie?
It's been a while.
Okay, do you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers?
Yeah.
Remember when they did the handshake and they flexed because we're both wearing these clothes? Do you want to end with that?
Okay, so it's
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on here.
Absolutely. Hope you guys liked it.
Yeah, I hope you liked it.